That's one small step for man.
Out for the out for the
What's going on podcast with me, AJ, and let's jump right into the ABC's AJ's Book Corner. I'm reading a book called Would I Lie to You, a novel by Nicole Blades, and I'll go ahead and read the synopsis real quick. What if a covert high-stakes cat burglar is given one last job before she can retire, but the gig is to steal the classified code to an innovative genetic editing tool her unaware husband is developing? Ask anyone about Lucille Lou Barlow and they'll tell you that she's a loving wife and mom, fire body, Pilates studio owner, and kind neighbor, but none of them know the true Lou because Lou is a liar and a thief, albeit reluctantly lately. She's been part of a dangerous, deep, covert crime syndicate for the last 30 years with a string of incredible international heists under her belt and a shoebox full of fake passports, weapons, cash stacks, and skeletons. But when her unsuspecting husband, Harry, accepts a lucrative job at the nation's leading biotech company, it means moving the family from their familiar Brooklyn base to the well-heeled New England town of Partridge Hollow. Lou sees it as her shot to finally retire from crime life. Something she's wanted since her son's birth 8 years ago, but Partridge Hollow isn't what it seems either. Lou quickly discovers that her new Stepford Wives-esque neighbors each have their own secrets hidden inside their mansions, into which she occasionally creeps. She also uncovers the most scandalous truth of all, that this move for her husband's career was orchestrated by her illicit employer. Worse, she's tasked with stealing the highly classified code for an innovative gene editing tool that Harry is developing. So far, the story is pretty good. It's slow pacing, but it's like has moments of fast pacing, and it has moments where it has you question stuff, which is really cool. But it's pretty good. I like a good mystery, and I like this is one of the few stories I've read where like the thief is like a woman and it's a black woman and stuff, and it's really cool like how she lives both lives and like there's suspense and stuff in there. It's pretty good pacing right now, but it does have moments where it's slower because you got to build the story. So yeah. All right, moving right along into this episode. This episode is, I found this article about Maslow, and if you know anything about me, I'm constantly always talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization and all that stuff. But we're basically going to discuss how fulfillment doesn't come from being seen fulfilled, but being present. In the article in Chasing Productivity, We Lost the Inner Life by Scott Barry Kaufman, they investigate how we basically live in a world that is incredibly loud, especially right now. Everywhere we look, we are bombarded by a single unwritten rule. If you want to matter, you have to be seen. We've built an entire culture. Yeah, social media, jobs, attention. It's basically an attention economy around this idea that a successful, fulfilled life is a visible one. We measure our worth by the size of our networks, the number of group chats we're juggling, and how much of ourselves we can broadcast to the world and show to the world. We adopt this unspoken theory that the deeper your well, the louder your signal should be. But what if we have it backwards? What if hyperconnectivity isn't a sign that we are thriving, but rather a perfectly disguised symptom of how we disconnect and versus how we actually feel? So I just want to go back to like the 1950s and what's changed since then to kind of understand like how with mental health human beings are flourishing versus back then how they flourished versus now, basically. Back in the late 1950s, like Abraham Maslow started a study where he wasn't looking for the happiest person or people are the most wealthy, but the most, are the most accomplished. Instead, he wanted to study people, period, who were living full human lives and experiences. Basically a full human being, a version of being human. He called them self-actualized people, and he mapped out 16 traits they all share. Things like a clear perception of reality, acceptance of themselves and others, spontaneity, creativity. Decades later, researchers put these traits to the test and basically figured out that at least 10 of them held up. So in Maslow's writings, there's one specific observation that a lot of people kind of ignored. He noted that the self-actualizing people had a massive, profound need for privacy and solitude. They were comfortable being alone in a way that the average person kind of just isn't or wasn't. They didn't need constant social media or constant social input to know who they were or who they are. In our world today, we might call this authenticity, the beauty, ability to stay true to oneself without being constantly shaped or bent by external pressures. From the outside, a person like this might look a little detached. People might wonder, why aren't they posting? Why aren't they sharing? But what we don't see from the outside is their vibrant inner life, a creative flow and a mental wellness that doesn't depend on being seen to have depth. Maslow explained it, how healthy and grounded people looked at the world. He divided human perception into decognition and becognition. So decognition stands for deficiency cognition, the state of mind where your perception is driven entirely by what you lack. That's your strategic filter. When you're in decognition, you look at a room, a person, or a situation and think, what can I get from this? How does this advance my goals? What am I missing here? It can be useful when you're doing finishing progress, trying to hit targets, get things done. But it's exhausting if you're constantly in that state of operating in decognition. And it basically doesn't really allow your mind to rest because you basically aren't able to fully accept and find rest and find accomplishment when you're in decognition. So becognition, the perception that doesn't use a strategic filter. When you're thinking about becognition, let's say you meet a person, you actually meet them. You aren't thinking about networking, you're just listening. You walk into a room and you are truly in the room. So it's basically when I go hiking. Recently, oftentimes now, I take a couple pictures and a couple videos for content purposes, but most of the time, especially on the other day that I do you try to do it on the weekends, but the other day that I do it, I really don't, take pictures unless it's something I want to just have for myself. I take so many nature photos and don't post probably half of them, not even close to half, because those pictures are for me to look at. Those pictures are me finding beauty and the wonder. Those moments where I'm out there hiking, I'm listening to the birds, I'm smelling the pond, I'm smelling nature, I'm listening to the rustling of leaves of the squirrels, I'm listening to the wind, I'm listening to and watching the turtles, the blue herons, I'm looking at the mushrooms forming and popping up, I'm looking at trees that have fallen or how they fell, or I'm present. And that's basically what we're kind of getting at here. They talk a little bit more about how becognition is the real indicator of mental wellness. It's the ability to be present in a way that doesn't require the current moment to be on its way to something else. And I think that's really super important, because you can basically see this never became you can see why becognition isn't something that you can't capitalize off of becognition, because you'd have to show it, which then would entail the fact of you going into I have to show that I did this thing, and then it would just take away from it. That's probably why it's not as popular currently. So we see a lot of confusion around that. Even the most successful people in our attention economy have started to perform inner life. You see it it's with the aesthetic morning walks, the curated gratitude rituals, the preambles that go, I've been thinking about this all week, right before they sell you something. And the performance has gotten so sophisticated that it looks real, but it's still, inside of a frame of transmission, inside of a frame of capitalism and whatnot. Carl Rogers, who's another psychologist, once described a full functioning person as someone who is deeply off into their own experience rather than performing it for an audience. an inner life, the kind that protects your peace, lowers your anxiety, and makes you feel whole. It is part of you. It is a part of you that doesn't need to be transmitted, and it is what is happening inside you when no one is watching. I'm not saying like connectivity is a bad thing. I'm online. Most people are online. I post like almost every day, something once or twice a day, but I do a lot of other great things and amazing things and fun things that are fulfilling and enriching, and that's my goal. What isn't fulfilling and enriching to my life, and I don't necessarily share those things because it's mine and it belongs to me. I think the way to kind of measure if you're living, a fulfilled and self-actualized life is, how does someone treats the person in front of them when no cameras are around? Basically, like who are you when no one's looking? And it shows up whether you can sit in a room without trying to manage everyone's perception of you. It shows up whether you can just sit with your own daydreams on a quiet afternoon and actually enjoy them. And an actualized person can absolutely be visible, but a visible person is always actualized. They aren't the same thing. And I think trying to focus or trying to force them to be is making this current journey of life harder on our mental health than it needs to be. It's not really, the width of your network, it's the depth of your well. And I kind of feel like it always was that way. So I think you should try to find peace in that and try to find your inner self and get quiet with yourself. And a lot of people don't necessarily want to do that, but it's helpful. Moving on to what I'm happy and grateful for. I'm happy and grateful to have completed my second volume of my Myrtle book. I don't know if I've talked about Myrtle on here, but I have I did this first volume called Myrtle. Myrtle is like a mystery book that uses this graphing thing where you basically do the art of deduction and solve a crime with who did it, what they did it with, where they did it, and why. And it's really fun. It's a brain teaser, and it's just something to get off the phone. I think that, and for me, I'm currently navigating, I do get on there and scroll from time to time, but I also am intentional about how much I'm scrolling and how much I'm on my phone and what am I doing on my phone. Am I looking up something? Am I searching something? Am I learning something from it? It doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes it's just me just scrolling to scroll, but also I'm including reading in there, taking breaks to read, taking breaks to do my Myrtle book, taking breaks to, do other things too. I think it's really important to do that as well. So I'm really happy that I finished my second volume Myrtle. I'm on my third one now. And then they have seasonal ones too that I want to go back and get. But yeah, I'm excited that I did that. I'm happy and grateful for getting to do that. The quote, that's the one thing. I love a good quote. 2 traps you need to avoid: caring what they think, thinking that they care. I think that that's one of the better ones, because when you care about what people think, that can turn you into somebody you're not. And when you think that a person cares about you, that's the one I struggle with, I feel like, because I can deal with, being able to disconnect from what people perceive me or think of me and just try to live my life. And it's so exhausting to try to second guess what people think of you. It's too much work, and I just can't. And then the second thing, I'm thinking they care. That's the one I'm just I have to really question the environment I'm in, the person it's coming from, and their relationship to me. And usually when I do those 2 things, I'm able to kind of put them in the thing of, oh no, you don't care about me. You care, or the only reason you do care about me is because my productivity, that I'm able to assist you. You don't care about me unconditionally like my best friends do, like my family do. And that's where you kind of have to, compartmentalize some things. But yeah, that's the quote for today. Let's go ahead and move on to Before I Go. Be sure to check out the show notes. Also check out my books on Amazon titled Poems to Cry To in the Dark and Love Letters Never Sent to Myself, and leave a 5-star rating. Other than that, I don't have anything else. I'm glad you're still here, and I hope you have the day you deserve. Bye.
One giant leap
For me!